Good afternoon and welcome to the National Capital Planning Commission's February 5th, 2026 open session. First, Megan, could you please take the roll call?
Yes, Commissioner Cozart.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Stidham.
Here.
Commissioner Argo.
Here.
Vice Chairman Levenbach.
Here.
Chairman Scharf.
Here.
Commissioner Blair. I believe he's here. Commissioner Ingracia.
Here.
Commissioner Dixon.
Here.
Commissioner Cash.
Present.
Commissioner Henderson.
Here.
Commissioner McGowan. Here. Marcella Costa, Executive Director, and Diane Sullivan, current Planning Division Director, are also in the meeting. With those present, Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Megan. Noting the presence of a quorum, I hereby call this meeting to order. Today's meeting is live streamed and will be available on the NCPC website in a few days, as is our custom. If there's no objection on the floor, the agenda as posted is adopted as the order of business. Hearing no objections, we will proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Agenda item 2 is the report of the chair. I'd just like to say a few things quickly. First of all, what a year this has been for NCPC. Last meeting, we had the East Wing Modernization Project. We had the Arabian Leopards, which I was particularly excited about at the zoo. And this week, this month, in addition to a number of other important projects, we have the Commander Stadium coming before us for the first time, other than the previous informational session. Really exciting project, very important for the future of the city. And we're excited for that, in addition to obviously our consent calendar items and informational presentations on the agenda as well. Looking ahead, our next meeting, our March 2026 meeting, our current plan, given agenda items that are expected for that meeting, including the ballroom coming back before us, and the public interest in those items. Our current plan is to do that March meeting virtually on Thursday, March 5th, 2026. Now, I want to give a little bit of explanation as to how that decision was arrived at so that there's no misunderstanding. NCPC staff recommended to me that we do that March meeting virtually, given their past experience with other projects that have had significant public attention and that warranted significant public input. Conducting that meeting virtually allows us to more readily accommodate public comment, including from people who aren't local to Washington, D.C. I presented that proposed plan, in addition to a number of other potential options, to the executive committee of the NCPC. I was particularly interested in that meeting in Commissioner Dixon's input, given that he is the longest serving member of the executive committee. In the end, it was our unanimous recommendation, or it was our unanimous view to hold that March meeting virtually, assuming that there is actually significant public interest in commenting on projects that are coming before us at that meeting. So in light of that, the executive committee unanimously adopted the recommendation of staff that that March meeting be held virtually, and that's why we are planning currently to conduct it virtually. Should the situation change, should there not be as much public comment as we expect, we still have the option to move that meeting back to our customary hybrid format. But as of now, we are planning on that meeting being virtual only. All that having been said, I'd also like to welcome Paul Ingracia to the NCPC. This is his first meeting. He is here as a designee of Ed Forst, the new administrator of the GSA. Paul is an attorney and the acting general counsel at GSA. We were honored to have Ed Forst at our last meeting, and it's great to have Paul here today. You're going to have a lot of fun. This is an incredible commission with a storied history. And if you don't know anything about cell towers, you're going to learn an awful lot about them in the coming months. With that, I have nothing further. And agenda item 3 is the report of our executive director, Marcel Acosta.
Thank you, Chair Scharf, and welcome Commissioner Gracia to the commission. I have one matter of public interest. National Park Service is seeking public comments on environmental assessment for the Tidal Basin Development Concept Plan. Comments are due by March 5th. We also expect the Tidal Basin Concept Plan to be on our commission's March agenda, and more information and a link to the Park Services EA site is available on our website. This concludes my update. My full report is in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Marcel. If there are no questions from commissioners, we'll proceed to agenda item 4, which is the legislative update presented by our Secretary and General Counsel, Megan Hoddle-Cox.
I don't have any specific legislative items to provide an update on this month, but I'm happy to answer any questions on pending ones if anyone has one.
Do any commissioners have any questions for Megan on pending legislative matters? Hearing none, we will proceed to agenda item 5, which is the consent calendar for this month. There are 2 items on this month's consent calendar. The first is to approve comments on the draft Joint Base Anacostia Bowling Dormitory Facility Plan. The second is to approve comments on concept plans for the Pentagon Commercial Vehicle Inspection Facility. Both of these items have been previously circulated to members of the commission. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners present or online about either of these 2 consent calendar items?
Chairman, I move that we adopt the consent calendar.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second? Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion on this item? Do any commissioners have any concerns before we move forward? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, could you please confirm the motion and the second and take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Dixon and seconded by Commissioner Stidham. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Scharf?
Yes.
Commissioner Ingracia?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan? Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. With that, the motion obviously is carried. We have 1 voting item and 2 informational presentations in our open session today. Agenda item 6A is a request to approve comments on concept plans for the new stadium on the RFK campus. And we have Laura Shipman with our team here to present. So Laura, please proceed whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and Commissioners. The District of Columbia RFK Stadium Project Management Office, in partnership with the Washington Commanders, has submitted concept plans for a proposed new stadium and surrounding site improvements on the RFK campus. As a reminder, at the concept review stage, the Commission is focused on topics such as general consistency with NCPC policies, appropriateness of the project for the site, and identification of any complex issues. Under the National Capital Planning Act, NCPC has advisory review authority for the stadium project as a district project outside the central area. My presentation today will include a project overview, and then we'll focus on recommendations for site and stadium design, circulation and parking, and coordination. The stadium will be located within the larger RFK campus, which is an approximately 180-acre parcel between the Anacostia River and the adjacent Kingman Park and Hill East neighborhoods. In January 2025, the DC RFK Memorial Stadium Campus Revitalization Act allowed the transfer of administrative jurisdiction over the campus from the National Park Service to the district. The campus redevelopment will be comprised of 5 districts and is envisioned to include a mix of uses with approximately 5,000 to 6,000 housing units, a sportsplex, retail, restaurants, hotels, and 30% of the campus as parks and open space. The focus of the Commission's current review is the stadium district development. highlighted on this map in pink, and the related components. The broader RFK campus mixed-use redevelopment will be guided by a district-led master plan, which will be prepared by the DC Office of Planning. The campus is located along the system of NPS-controlled parklands bordering the Anacostia River. The RFK Campus Revitalization Act requires the district to ensure that development does not adversely impact NPS lands and to designate a 200-foot wide buffer along the river as a riparian zone. The stadium project site is approximately 30 acres within the overall RFK campus. NCPC has long recognized the significance of this site as identified in the Legacy Plan, Monumental Core Framework Plan, and the agency's 2006 RFK Stadium Site Redevelopment Study. Of particular interest to NCPC is the project's potential impacts to the system of streets, public spaces, and important view sheds within the L'Enfant City, namely East Capitol Street as a prominent gateway and major axial corridor. Impacts on NPS lands and adjacent federal facilities were also evaluated, along with general consistency with policies set forth in the federal elements of the comprehensive plan. The proposed project will replace the original RFK Stadium, which officially closed to the public in 2019. Demolition began in late January 2025 and is anticipated to be complete by the middle of this year. With that, we will dive into the proposed stadium concept. The applicant team has identified several design drivers, which I will walk through over the next few slides. First, the landscape strategy bridges the formal historic urban fabric to the west and the river ecology to the east. The site is also meant as a destination and a place to gather for locals and the region. The stadium is positioned along the East Capitol Street axis, linking to the Capitol Building and Lincoln Memorial within the monumental core. The roof form raises to the north and south to welcome neighbors and lowers on the east-west axis in deference to the view shed to the Capitol Dome and Washington Monument. It is also similar to the curvature of the original RFK Stadium. The perimeter colonnade and raised podium anchors the building within its setting and reinforces the civic presence. The colonnade is also intended to create a framework that shapes covered indoor-outdoor spaces and allows permeability. The designers envision the stadium as a new landmark in the district that draws from tradition and expresses it through a contemporary lens. The structure includes several elements that reference the formal architecture of buildings in the monumental core. These elements include the surrounding colonnade, elevated podium, and grand stairways, as shown in this west elevation. Here is the east elevation that will be seen on the approach from the Whitney Young Memorial Bridge. While not strictly symmetrical, the applicant notes that the architecture aims to create a balanced composition of indoor and outdoor spaces focused on proportion and rhythm, referencing the colonnades and facade compositions of historic buildings throughout the nation's capital. On the north and south elevations, the podium dips down and the stadium entrances are at ground level with open-air colonnades. The 1910 Height of Buildings Act permits the stadium to be constructed to a height of 130 feet and allows a dome to extend above that height. The dome roof form varies in height and reaches 195 feet at its highest points. This section also shows the open-air colonnades on the building exterior, oriented towards the public plazas and neighborhoods to the north and south. As noted previously, the stadium is located at a prominent Capitol Gateway on a preeminent linear view corridor identified in the comprehensive plan. Here is a view of the original RFK Stadium from the west, looking over the Capitol Building, and the proposed conceptual view of the new stadium in the distance. The original RFK Stadium is shown here in an aerial view from the east, with the Capitol Building and Washington Monument visible beyond. The design of the proposed stadium's roof symbolically responds to the importance of the East Capitol Street view corridor by lowering the height along its east-west axis. However, additional analysis is needed to confirm if the proposed stadium visually reinforces the preeminence of the U.S. Capitol and Washington Monument by protecting the visual frame around them, as outlined in Comprehensive Plan Policy UDB 14. As such, staff recommends the commission request additional views of the stadium in context with the next submission, including views from within the site, adjacent neighborhoods, and the river, as well as an accurate long view along the East Capitol Street axis to ensure visibility of the U.S. Capitol building dome and Washington Monument is maintained. The views should be taken from the higher elevations of the topographic bowl in the Anacostia Hills, where the axis crosses the Civil War defenses of Washington parks. Regarding lighting and digital signage, the comprehensive plan discusses that lighting can be used to activate public areas and create a more dynamic visitor experience, particularly at sporting venues. However, depending on implementation, digital lighting may negatively alter the monumental core's street atmosphere and light skyline views of iconic national resources. This is also an important consideration in the context of existing residential and future mixed-use neighborhoods. As such, staff recommends that the stadium design, as it's developed, the applicant study exterior graphics and lighting approaches that respect the hierarchy of memorials, monuments, and important civic buildings and spaces in the nation's capital, with the U.S. Capitol and Washington Monument the most prominent features in the nighttime skyline, as outlined in Urban Design Element Policy B15. Here is a view of the former stadium from the west at the center of East Capitol Street, and a conceptual view of the stadium's west entrance from the same viewpoint within the proposed Festival Plaza. The applicant envisions the new roof stadium serving as a venue for sports, arts, and cultural events, creating a year-round activity and entertainment center for district residents and visitors. The stadium will contain 65,000 seats and additional space for 5,000 people standing. The comprehensive plan encourages programming and placemaking strategies to strengthen the public realm and user experience. At the same time, it guides new development to be compatible with the character of surrounding public space, properties, and community. The stadium design should therefore aim to create a lively destination with consideration for any potential impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods, and staff recommends the commission request additional information in the next submission regarding proposed building program at street level, planned number of stadium events and plans for tailgating, approach to event noise, and potential interim uses and creative placemaking strategies until new mixed-use development is built out. The design integrates innovative structural and material components, including the transparent roof membrane shell with a steel cable structure to allow in ample natural light and give the indoor-outdoor feel to the stadium. The material palette also includes concrete ribs and steel girders, fluted glass curtain walls, and operable glass doors. This is the proposed site plan with the stadium project area outlined with a dotted red line. The site includes a series of vegetated plazas at the north, south, and east entries to the stadium, along with a landscape podium terrace. To enhance the experience of these spaces adjacent to high-traffic roadways, staff recommends that the landscape design buffer the stadium plazas, particularly the East Plaza, from the adjacent roadway traffic to improve user comfort and create inviting public spaces. And as the design is developed, staff recommends the commission request additional site design information in the next submission related to the stormwater management strategy, landscape and planting plans, the design of kiosks and pavilions proposed around the stadium grounds, and the perimeter security approach. And now we will focus on the initial concepts for circulation and parking. Just for orientation, north is to the right in the next few transportation slides. The project aims to prioritize multimodal access to the stadium, including Metro Rail, Metro Bus, and upgraded pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. Plans are in development for a BRT station near Benning Road by 2030, shown with the dotted green rectangle to the north. And WMATA is exploring the possibility of extending the Stadium Armory Metro Rail station mezzanine to accommodate the anticipated crowds. A festival plaza is planned outside of the project site at the east end of the stadium that is phased to open at the same time as the stadium and to provide the primary connection to the Stadium Armory Metro Rail station. The existing tunnels under C Street and Independence Avenue will be upgraded to provide safe access to the stadium without conflicting with vehicular traffic. However, at the time of stadium opening, several large surface parking lots will be surrounding the site, which may create an uncomfortable streetscape environment for pedestrians for the years prior to full build-out. To ensure improved public access to the Anacostia River and Anacostia Riverwalk Trail as required by the Transfer Act, staff suggests the applicant consider integrating landscape pathways through the proposed surface parking lots to create comfortable pedestrian connectivity, particularly through the parking lots adjacent to the riparian area. The site currently has several existing bike facilities shown in dark blue, including protected bike lanes and the Riverwalk Trail system. Some existing bicycle facilities on the north side of the stadium will be modified and upgraded as shown with the dotted dark blue lines. New bicycle facilities shown in light blue will also be provided. Overall, staff is supportive of the concept's approach to emphasize multimodal access to the stadium, including upgraded transit, pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. Upgraded transit, pedestrian, and bicycle infrastructure. In terms of vehicular circulation, the stadium ingress and egress approach aims to efficiently direct regional traffic to and from 295 and 695. At the time of stadium opening, 2 structured parking garages are proposed to be located to the north and south of the stadium, labeled G1 and G2 on this slide. These garages will be highly visible in the early stages of the campus redevelopment project, though they will be surrounded by development at full build-out. To understand how these garages may impact views towards the stadium, staff recommends the commission requests the applicant provide the designs of the parking garages in the next submission. If the designs are not available at that time, information on the heights, massing, and the bulk of the proposed garages should be provided. Further information about how traffic will be managed will be helpful with future reviews. Therefore, with the next submission, staff recommends the commission request additional information on proposed strategies to encourage multimodal transportation and minimize stadium traffic impacts to surrounding neighborhoods, including planned multimodal transportation projects that will be in place at the time of stadium opening, any potential contingencies if transit improvements are not complete at the time of stadium opening, a traffic study to understand the stadium's impacts to the surrounding street network, a parking strategy outlining the number of structured and surface parking spaces proposed at stadium opening, and stadium parking capacity throughout future development phases as surface parking is removed, and a transportation management plan, if available, outlining recommended strategies to manage the traffic demand, foster multiple modes of travel, and reduce congestion on the roadways. To ensure visitor comfort when visiting the stadium grounds, staff also recommends the commission request the applicant provide additional information with the next submission regarding accessible circulation routes, wayfinding and signage, and planned improvements to the high-traffic roadways adjacent to the stadium's public spaces. In terms of coordination, the applicant began community and stakeholder engagement in early 2025, and this engagement is ongoing with the development of the full stadium design and overall RFK campus master plan. Last night, the applicant team held a community meeting to gather feedback on the stadium design concept, which they will summarize in the next submission. Because the stadium site is located directly adjacent to the historic DC Armory, a federal installation, staff suggests the applicant coordinate with the DC National Guard Armory and NPS on the proposed stadium project and master plan, specifically regarding pedestrian connectivity improvements, proposed street redesign along the frontages to the Armory site, and security and operations. Additionally, staff suggests the applicant continue coordination with the National Park Service regarding connections and transitions to the broader Anacostia Park system. In summary, staff notes the conceptual design approach aims to balance innovative stadium design with respect for the site context by maintaining the East Capitol Street viewshed of the L'Enfant plan, referencing the scale, composition, and civic importance of the architecture within the monumental core, integrating the riparian landscape into the site, and echoing the form of the original RFK Stadium. With that, staff recommends the commission approve the comments on concept plans highlighted throughout the presentation and listed on the following slides, which are intended to support consistency with the comprehensive plan for the National Capitol as the design develops. And that concludes my presentation. Members of the applicant team from the district, the commanders, and the design firm HKS are also available for any questions from the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I actually have a long list of questions, actually. So the festival plazas are, I think, are mentioned within the submission as something that would be developed and opened at the same time as the stadium. But there isn't really any information on what those plazas consist of. Can you share a little bit more on that?
Yes. So I'm Brian Hanlon, project executive for the RFK PMO, and I'm joined remotely today by Andy Van Horn of the Commanders and Lance Davis with HKS. So I invite Lance Davis to actually respond to your question on that.
Hi, everyone. Lance Evans is joining from HKS.
I have an old friend named Lance Davis, so sorry about that. He's a great guy. He's a great guy.
That's all okay. Yeah, the festival plazas, we're in the beginning stages, Commissioner, of planning the plazas in and around the stadium and the public realm. And we will be following up with more information on those in our next submission.
Okay, I had a similar question about the parking structures. And I know that the staff report is already requesting additional information, but I would just note for anything that is going to be implemented as part of the stadium district, right? It should be coming in as a package so that we have a full understanding of all of the moving parts and pieces and a good idea of what the landscape will include as a whole. And I know that the other pieces will come as the master plan and the NEPA continues, but just the pieces associated with the district are important.
And I would just echo that, particularly with respect to the G1 structure that's noted on our diagrams. I mean, that's really close to the stadium. So in terms of our consideration of view sheds looking to the west, what that structure looks like, its massing, its size, I mean, all that is sort of relevant, and it's not really reflected on the images we have of the stadium, even though I think certainly from some angles it's going to be right there. Am I wrong on that?
Lance?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And on that sort of note about the view sheds, it's really important that the view angle that you're showing is maybe a view angle that no one other than someone in a helicopter or airplane will kind of perceive, right? Because it's this sweeping view of a high level. I think having more of an understanding of the view of people crossing the bridge, people coming down the road from the Capitol area, people coming from other angles at a more pedestrian or vehicular level will help us in better understanding how you're protecting those views that are so important on this axis. So that was going to be a comment, but sorry.
Yes, yeah, and staff explained, similar requests for us, and we're actively documenting view sheds and corridors from a pedestrian perspective, and we'll have those in our next submission as well, Commissioner.
Okay, great. Two more, sorry. My understanding of this is for more than just football, right? That this is a versatile, flexible facility that allow for festivals, concerts, events, and other sports. Can you help me understand how, and not like down to the technical detail, but understanding how you would transition from something like football to maybe tennis or soccer, or knowing that there are other stadiums, but just thinking through like how it can adapt for other sports activities?
Yeah, we have, the infrastructure of the stadium on the event level is large enough and flexible enough to allow for the transition of the football playing surface to other surfaces, whether it be surfaces for soccer matches or conventions. We also feature retractable seating in the lower bowl of the stadium that allows for configurations for various events such as concert stages and other ancillary entertainment.
Okay, great. And then last question, this is more of a technical question related to its height. I know it's proposed at 195 feet and 130 is allowable with the extension of the dome. Is there a limit on the dome from a zoning perspective? I know the height is regulated, but I'm just curious about the dome height.
I would say there's been Lance, you might want to jump in, but there has been a determination by the zoning administrator, and that letter is on the DOB website, but we will share it in our next submission,
Okay.
and we'll describe there's some technical language that defines the height points and those things, so that we can share in our next submission.
Okay.
But the view of the DC government is that the stadium is compliant with the Height of Buildings Act. Is that correct?
That's our current view, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Do we
Thank
have
you.
any other questions for the presentation team? Yeah, Commissioner.
As I guess one of the two representatives, I guess, of the Capitol building here, I do think it would be helpful to see, and I appreciate the staff comments. Yes, and I think they hit on a lot of my concerns, but seeing the elevation of the stadium compared to the Capitol, compared to the Washington Monument, all in one line, so we can see how those are going to line up.
We hear that loud and clear. Absolutely.
And I had not thought about it until the staff comments about the lighting and the impact of that on the views. I think that is going to be very important to see. And I understand when there's a game going on, it's going to be lit up. I think everybody understands that, but what's it going to be?
Sure.
Times that it's not going to be used. I think it would also be useful to see, and I don't know if you all have that now or can submit that at a later point, a size comparison of this to the old RFK, either the footprint and
Sure.
the overall mass of it. And finally, from the drawings that I've seen, the column design does not seem to be settled. At least it appeared to be different designs, none of which seem to match up with some of the more historic properties around town. So, including the Capitol. So I would be interested in seeing further refinement on that and how that's going to try to what else we see on other important plans.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for, yeah, Commissioner?
So I had a question. So I noticed during the presentation that there was talk of possible future expansion now of the infrastructure of Stadium Armory Station. Some earlier conversation, I do want to commend that there's not the third parking garage on the map right in the presentations we'll be getting. But is Oklahoma Avenue now kind of off the table? Is that more of a WMATA question? Is Transportation Planning Board and COG looking at that? Because for those that don't know, there was originally a plan for an Oklahoma Avenue station long ago that would have served the Kingman Park neighborhood. It never happened, but there's still room to do it. So I'm just wondering, is the view now that we're just going to look at expanding Stadium Armory and not adding a second station?
Yeah, I guess I would say that's a WMATA question, and we'd be happy to share whatever we can in the next submission.
And just
They're underway with the study.
and just to supplement that, there is that BRT station that's planned for 2020. Just so that's
2030, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had a streetcar at the same floor. I'm not going to poo-poo BRT. All modes of transit are great, but I think that having that metro station, when we're looking at the volume here, anyone's been to the ballpark on a game day, it's a lot. The other question I had was, I think that a lot of the renderings are really cool, but we didn't see kind of any of the ugly side of the stadium, and I know there's got to be one. So if you've ever been to 6th Street at Cap One Arena, if you've ever been somewhere they're loading in all the stuff that's coming in, somewhere there's the food service, somewhere there's all of these things. If you've been to the ballpark, there's sides that don't look nice. Somewhere around here, that's got to exist, and I haven't seen any of it yet. So I don't know if you can even give an opinion on, is it going to be on the west side? Is it going to be on the east side? Is it going to be adjacent to the ugly parking garage? Like, where is the ugly side going to be, and when can we see it to see what you've done to mitigate it?
Yeah, there is no back door, to the stadium, commissioner. It is envisioned as a 360-degree accessible piece of civic architecture. The stadium infrastructure is actually, access is located on the north side of the site, adjacent to the G2 garage that you see on the screen now. And then from there, we go underground, under the public realm, to the event level of the stadium. So the intent is that the stadium infrastructure, the movement of goods and services in and out, is actually concealed from the public realm.
So it's going to be kind of like the new tunnel that was built with the visitor center on the Capitol, where you're routing everything under so you don't actually see any of that back end anymore.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's helpful.
Interesting. Are there any other questions, Paul?
Quick question.
Chairman?
Thank you for the presentation.
Mr. Chairman?
As far as the architectural style, we appreciate realizing it's not a federal project, still appreciate the references to classical architecture, to the historic characteristics of the neighborhood. To the extent you're able to incorporate more historic classical design into particularly the colonnade and the entrance, just to convey a sense of heft and gravity when people enter, I think that would be a good recommendation. And even with the surrounding landscape, to the extent you're able to incorporate more of those elements, I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about the historic sort of references that are being considered for this design.
Yeah, I think, for us, the stadium is inspired by the city, and the district, and the neoclassical style and architecture is synonymous with the city itself. I think rather than replicating individual pieces or components of the style, what we really valued were the principles of the architecture itself. So a design that has a clarity of form, a balanced composition, the use of the colonnades to create a rhythm and order to the design, and the use of entries and axial connections to create a visual hierarchy for the guests as they come in to the building. The stadium does sit on an elevated base, which is reminiscent of examples that are found throughout the Capitol. The siting of the stadium itself along the monumental axes and how it expresses and establishes those view corridors and connections and links with the L'Enfant plan was very important to the architecture and the foundation of the stadium's design. But for us, the idea of the true value of looking back, to define a path for our future is where we've landed with the architecture. So very much inspired by the rules and the principles of classical architecture, but really interpreted in a way that it represents, a venue of sports and entertainment facility for the district.
Awesome. I think Commissioner Dixon had a question, if I'm not much mistaken. Is that right, sir?
Yes, it is. One, it was already implied, I guess, that they may be able to accommodate track and field, like an Olympic kind of an event in the facility.
Tracking like an Olympic track in the stadium right now would not fit on the event level. It would have to require some infrastructure changes. You can fit Olympic events inside the stadium, Commissioner, just not the track and field.
Okay, I thought that might be the case. Secondly, I hope that there will be consideration for solar utilization as much as possible. Solar paneling. There's a lot of advances being made architecturally in the kind of panels that can be put on facilities inside, outside, and around. And we ought to capture that energy if we can, to use it for the benefit of the project, of course.
And we're actively researching those elements, Commissioner.
Hey, Chairman.
Yeah.
Yeah, just first, thank you. This is great work across the board, and really look forward to seeing this mature. And I know in the next submission, we're going to talk a little bit more about some security considerations. And I just wanted to encourage you and the entire team to be thinking not just with your traditional security measures. And I would say to start thinking about some of those exquisite issues that come with a mass gathering location such as this as well. So again, we don't need to go into any more detail than that, but just please, as you guys continue to go forward, I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to be incorporated.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My question, what's the roof made out of? Like, what's the actual material?
That is another Lance question. So
Yeah.
I saw the description in our I'm just trying to what is that stuff?
There's two materials that we're under consideration right now, Mr. Chairman. One is ETFE. It's a transparent membrane or plastic film. It's the same material that was used in US Bank Stadium for the Vikings and the stadium in Los Angeles at SoFi. There is an alternate material on the market called Viewscape, and it also has similar properties to ETFE, and we're evaluating, what is the right choice of materiality in there, but they're both membranes.
How do you keep them clean?
Each one of these comes with a maintenance program, on the roof. Essentially they have a high coefficient of slippery coefficient. That's not the right word here, but basically when it rains, they're self-cleaning. And then it does require, kind of a monthly access.
Interesting. Any other questions before we proceed to public comment?
Well,
Go.
one last question. The plaza, do we have an idea of what the material will be for that? Is it stone like the surrounding plazas, or is it consistent across the entire stadium? Like what color? Do we have any details about that?
Oh, we're just beginning the journey into the hardscape strategy and the softscape around the site, Commissioner. So we'll follow up that with our next submission.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing and hearing none, we do have two people signed up for public testimony today. I believe the first is it Robert Hershey? Mr. Hershey, representing the DC Council of Engineering and Architectural Societies. You'll have 5 minutes to give testimony, sir. If you want to proceed at will.
Okay, I'm here to urge everybody to keep the streets open so that people can get to the stadium. And in particular, we urge everybody to keep Pennsylvania Avenue America's main street. Thank you.
I appreciate your brevity very much, sir. Thank you for joining us, and I hope the project team has taken note of your concern. With that, we have one other person signed up for public comment. I believe that's Kat Aristi, representing Oceana, who is joining us virtually.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You have 5 minutes to proceed to provide testimony whenever you'd like to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Kat Aristi, and I am here representing Oceana, which is the largest international advocacy organization focused solely on ocean conservation. I am speaking today to express Oceana's support for including reusable beverage cup systems, other reusable foodware, and related wash facilities in the design for the new Commander Stadium. Oceana's headquarters are here in Washington, D.C., and we feel a responsibility to speak up as the development of the new stadium begins, especially at a time when the global plastic pollution crisis is intensifying. As the stadium and stadium grounds, including kiosks and pavilions, are being designed, this presents the perfect opportunity to build on foodware systems that protect the surrounding landscape from plastic pollution. Plastic pollution is one of the greatest threats to the health of our oceans and rivers, our climate, and our communities. Researchers are increasingly identifying concerning connections between our exposure to plastics and adverse human health impacts. Plastic, almost all of which comes from fossil fuels, is also a significant contributor to climate change. In fact, if plastics were a country, it would be the fourth largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. Reducing single-use plastics through reusable cup systems is a practical, effective step that the commanders can take to protect public health and the environment. As of 2015, approximately 8.3 billion metric tons of plastic has been produced, of which 6.3 billion metric tons became plastic waste. Despite the scale of the plastic pollution crisis, recycling, often presented as the solution, barely makes a dent in the amount of plastic waste produced. Only 6% of the plastic waste in the United States is recycled. The effective solution is to reduce plastic pollution and move to non-toxic reuse and refill systems. This shift is supported by the public, as proven by a recent national polling conducted by Oceana by a nonpartisan polling company Ipsos, which revealed that 85% of US voters support increasing the use of reusable packaging and foodware. Reuse systems work. They are designed so that packaging and foodware can be reused multiple times for their original purpose in their original form. A single reusable cup can be used more than 100 times, greatly reducing the amount of single-use plastic that's incinerated or landfilled. A 10% increase in beverage and bottling companies implementing reusable cups across the US would save an estimated 432 million cups from entering aquatic ecosystems. That is the scale of the impact we're talking about. Requiring reusable cups at the new stadium would also help protect the Anacostia River, one of only 3 rivers in the US that the EPA deemed impaired by trash. Every single-use cup prevented from entering the waste stream is one less item that can end up in this already polluted river. And this is not just an environmental issue, it's also a financial one. Litter cleanups cost the US an estimated $11.5 billion every year, with about 20 billion pieces comprised of disposable food serviceware. Reducing the amount of single-use plastic cups at stadium events will save the district money that can be saved instead of spent cleaning up unnecessary waste. DC would not be alone in taking this step. Stadiums and arenas across the country are moving to reusable cups. Levi Stadiums, home to the 49ers, and Arrowhead, home to the Chiefs, both committed to implementing reusable cup programs this year, including at this weekend's Super Bowl. After a reusable cup pilot program at Crypto.com Arena in LA, home of the Lakers, Kings, and other teams, eliminated 23,000 single-use cups in 2 nights, the arena established the reusable cups as a permanent fixture in the venue. Here in DC, many concert venues are already using reusable cup systems. Reuse is not theoretical, it is happening, it works, and it should be a priority at the new stadium. For all of these reasons, I strongly urge the commanders to design reusable cup systems into the stadium plan. This is a practical, proven, and popular solution that will protect our waters, our climate, and our city. It is a chance for DC to lead on tackling the plastic pollution crisis and to build a stadium that does not leave waste behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aristi. Are there any questions for either of these 2 witnesses from any members of the commission? Hearing none, that concludes public testimony on this item for today. Is there a motion on the floor to approve comments on the concept plans for the new stadium at RFK campus? Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll now open things up to the commission for discussion, and I'll start with Commissioner Kozar.
Good afternoon. So really appreciate the staff presentation on this, and just wanted to lift up the parts of the presentation in particular that really speak to how this stadium design really celebrates Washington as a monumental city with our historic significance, our architectural excellence, and civic vitality. And in particular, appreciated kind of the pieces around the design drivers and really thinking about this as a new landmark. In many ways, the old stadium was a landmark, and this continues in that tradition and helps it to be a real anchor for our city. And so just appreciate how the design team has really embraced all of the historic planning work in the city and brought it in with that kind of contemporary way and expressed it in a contemporary way to use the designer Lance's words. So I'm looking forward to, as I've spoken to others, they've been really, really impressed by the design. And so that gives a lot of confidence about the pieces that are going to come to this commission after this. So really, again, appreciate the staff work on this, appreciate the presentation, and appreciate the great work of my colleagues in the district and the consultants who are supporting it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kozar. Commissioner Schaefer?
Hi, yes, nothing further to add. Just again, great presentation. Look forward to seeing this progress.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Stidham?
Thank you very much for the presentation. And while I have many questions. I had many questions. I think the design is off to a great start. As I'm sure many people, I've spent a lot of time in the older stadium. My grandfather had season tickets when the Redskins called it home, many concerts. I love the homage to the old stadium, and how you are respecting that structure in this new contemporary architecture. But it was a very heavy structure, and the measures that you have taken with the new design to lighten it, not just lighten it through and giving it transparency, but also how it sits on the landscape and how it interacts with the landscape. I think you're off to a really great start. I think there are some refinements that you could make. I would take a look at the ribbing and see if maybe less ribbing was an opportunity. It feels like it's maybe too much structure and an opportunity for a little bit more transparency, and lighting through it. I love the grand stairs and the fact that the glass doors allow for what looks like you could see all the way through, giving it that structure from both the exterior and I'm sure from the interior as well. And I think the dome and the materiality that is chosen for the dome actually adds to that a great bit. I did have concerns originally with the design being on axis and the importance of that axis as part of the city. But I think that you have taken care of that in your respect for the axis through this design. So I would just encourage you as you continue to refine and modify the design to just keep that in mind. But as a whole, I think it is starting off as a very beautiful structure that is going to be a lovely new landmark to the district, and a great complement to the Park Service land around it. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo, are you still with us?
I am still with you.
Awesome.
I'm just trying to find the buttons. Sorry. And I can't get on the unable to start video. That's okay. As long as you can hear me. I really love Commissioner Stidham's comments, and I want to be sure to associate myself with those. I think one of the things, what were the comment about using kind of the rules of classical architecture and adapting them in this design is really satisfying. And just I don't have much more to say other than I'm so excited that we're as far along as we are, and we'll love to see the next development. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach.
Thanks for the presentation. And, I was excited when I saw this on the agenda. And I asked my friends and family and importantly, my wife, what they all thought of the renderings. And to a person, everybody liked it. And it could just be the crowd I run with, but part of the reason why they liked it was the traditional design, the classic design. I think it resonated with at least the people that I spoke with. And it's interesting. I just want to also just go to the executive order making federal architecture beautiful again. And I think one of the things that I think is interesting about the EO and how it talks about architecture is that it talks about how public buildings, in this case, now obviously this isn't a public building, but they should uplift and beautify public spaces, inspire the human spirit, ennoble the United States, and command respect from the general public. And I think that's what we want this stadium to aspire to. So I want to foot stomp what Commissioner Gracia said, which about the classical, the classic features of it. If anything, I think if there are changes, I'd like to see it move more towards that direction. Very interested in some of the other development around the stadium and how that complements the renderings that we saw, and also want to see some of the additional renderings that some of the commissioners requested as well, because I think it'd be helpful to give us all a sense of what it's going to look like when we go visit it.
Sure. Thank you, Vice Chairman Levenbach. Commissioner Blair, I don't believe is with us. Commissioner Ingracia.
Thank you. Yeah, just want to reiterate, what the sentiments of the other commissioners. I think this is an important project. It's an important project for the city. It's long overdue. It's going to be a landmark in the district for many years to come, I'm sure. And I'm very impressed with the progress being made, just to the extent that we can keep in mind, again, those principles of neoclassical, traditional, historic architecture. I think a lot of that has already been incorporated into the design, which is great. And to the extent that those elements could be animating, the surrounding plaza, not just in terms of design, but materials and color. I hope those factors are taken into account. Again, this is not a federal project, but I think, we wanted to seamlessly weave with the tapestry of the rest of the city. And it's going to be an important landmark for the city for many years to come. And we look forward to getting more details about that as this comes along. But appreciate this today.
Thank you, Commissioner Ingracia. Commissioner Dixon.
Yeah, first, I want to thank the staff for its typical great work. And I want to associate myself with our DC Planning Director, Commissioner Kozark. And yes, it is definitely neoclassic and it looks great.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cash.
Thanks so much, and also associate myself with Commissioner Kozar's comments. And I also appreciate the feedback on the 360 design that we're supposed to have on the stadium. I really want to hold the design team to that because, unfortunately, I think those are the kind of details that get value engineered out very early, especially when we're talking about now underground structures under future development. So I would just urge the design team to make sure that you're keeping to that, to not make an ugly side if you can help it, and to really think ahead with all the other developments that's going to have to go on. And now that we're having that really complicating structure, I think it's probably going to complicate things underground, just to make sure that we're kind of keeping that as one of the design principles that you don't want to waver from. So thanks for the presentation. Thanks to the staff for the analysis.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson.
I've said most of what I already have to say, but I just, again, thank the staff for their forward-leaning thoughts that they put down on paper, and look forward to working with you all as everything comes in.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McGowan.
I don't have any additional comments, but thank you to staff for the presentation and for those who are both online and in person who were able to provide more information and answer questions about the project. So thank you all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, first of all, staff, Laura, you and the team really knocked it out of the park with these comments. I associate myself with almost all of them. I just think this was a really thoughtful review of a highly complicated plan. So thank you for that. I'd also like to thank the project team and obviously DC government for what they've put together here. When we had the first informational presentation on this project, I was really worried we were going to end up with some modernist garbage that would have destroyed the skyline of Washington, DC, would have been a blight on a key axis of sort of the entire core of the city, and would have been a real problem. Instead, I think we have a really interesting project, one that I think will stand the test of time. I think the Colonnade is an inspired choice. I was talking to Marcel Costa, our executive director, before. To me, it's evocative of Euro-Saarinen and the Dulles terminal. I'm not sure if anyone agrees with me on that point. But that's what I see when I look at it. And I think that's an interesting design choice in keeping with the history of the district. And I think we have some questions about massing, about how this actually aligns with the Capitol. I think I'd like to see more elevations, as other commissioners have said, or other imagery more generally. But overall, I think this is a really incredible stadium that will be of tremendous benefit to Washington, D.C. in the long term. And I would just congratulate everybody involved for what they've achieved so far. Few comments. I'm concerned with lighting. Obviously, game days are game days. But if this stadium is going to be fully lit, given the amount of lighting that shines through the colonnade in the pictures that we've already seen, I'm concerned with what this will look like sort of in the background of life in DC at night. The G1 garage is really close to the stadium itself. What that looks like and how it impacts view sheds, I think it's an open question that hopefully we'll get more clarity on as we go forward. The roof, I'm interested in material science. This has come out in a number of prior projects, so any further details on what material is going to be used and what it's going to look like in the long term, most specifically. I guess I've been to SoFi Stadium and I know what that looks like, but if a different material is used, I'd be very interested in that. I think Commissioner Cash's point about the ugly side is very well taken. Most stadiums do have an ugly side. If we can avoid that here, that's obviously great. If not, I think we need to sort of know what that looks like and what direction that ugly side will be facing in, or will be facing. And lastly, the only thing I'd say, this is well beyond the scope of this commission, but since one of our members of the public who testified today raised it, I am actually in favor or opposed to reusable service items, reusable food containers at any stadium. I was involved in the drafting of President Trump's executive order on bringing back plastic straws. I think paper straws are terrible. So to the extent that anything NCPC is doing or saying impacts choices on food service items within the stadium, I would encourage you to go with traditional plastic. But with that, we've already taken the motion. What do we do now? Do we have to take a vote?
Yes.
Sorry. Here we are. I apologize. Are there any further comments or questions before we proceed with the vote? Okay, Madam Secretary, can you please confirm the motion and second and take the vote by roll call?
Yes, the motion was made by Commissioner Henderson and seconded by Commissioner Cozart. Commissioner Cozart?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Stidham?
Yes.
Commissioner Argo?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Levenbach?
Yes.
Chairman Scharf?
Yes.
Commissioner Ingracia?
Yes.
Commissioner Dixon? Commissioner Dixon?
Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Cash?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McGowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, Megan. That motion is carried. We will now move on to agenda item 7A, which is an informational presentation on the Pennsylvania Avenue Initiative. NCPC staff are going to present a brief project background and share an overview of work to date and the project timeline going forward. This is a really important project. Really, since I joined this commission last summer, we've been talking a lot about Pennsylvania Avenue. This is one of the key, it's a core thoroughfare in the center of our nation's capital. And it's a really important civic corridor that hopefully we will be able to improve dramatically in the coming years. I'd like to acknowledge, the National Park Service's work on restoring the fountains at Freedom Plaza, John Marshall Park, in preparation for America 250. They're a crucial partner here, as are some of the other key stakeholders in the area, including DC Department of Transportation. And with that, I'll turn it over to NCPC staff. Karen Shearhold is going to be presenting for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Good afternoon, Chairman Scharf and Commissioners. This information presentation will provide a background on Pennsylvania Avenue, its unique location and role in the capital city. I'll review some past revitalization efforts, its current management and design issues, and highlight some of the key planning milestones that have led to where we are today. Then conclude with a project overview and walk through our anticipated review timeline. The material may be familiar to some of you, many of you, but we're hopeful it provides a helpful background for those who may be new to the project and also set the stage for our upcoming concept review. The 1791 L'Enfant Plan of the City of Washington created an interconnected system of public and ceremonial spaces providing physical and visual access to the buildings, landmarks, and iconic symbols of our new democracy. This resulted in an urban form that encouraged the interaction of citizens and their government. At the heart was Pennsylvania Avenue, intended to be a primary thoroughfare, drawing activity to the city center and connecting the two rivers at the eastern and western borders. And while Pennsylvania Avenue in our city extends west to Rock Creek and east across the Anacostia River. Our work and this presentation focus on the segment between the White House and the Capitol. Historically, the Avenue has served as the nation's venue to celebrate, commemorate, and recognize social, cultural, political moments and events. It's where we've collectively mourned, gathered in the name of justice, and come together in celebration of some of our most important achievements. And every 4 years, it's the site of the presidential inaugural procession. It's more than just a city street. The Avenue is a cultural resource. The Avenue and its surrounding area are home to many historically significant buildings, statues, memorials, parks, and landscape features. Its symbolic character and national ceremonial role contribute to the significance of the Pennsylvania Avenue National Historic Site. Over time, the Avenue has gone through periods of renewal and decline, from L'Enfant's People's Promenade to a bustling commercial center, to an office district, to a car-focused landscape, and today in disrepair and lacking vitality. The Avenue's most recent renewal was in the early 1970s when Congress created the Pennsylvania Avenue Development Corporation, or the PADC. As one of the first public-private partnerships in the country, PADC was a quasi-federal agency that oversaw all aspects of management and operations. PADC was responsible for planning, regulation, development, maintenance, public space improvements, and event programming. To carry out these duties, it prepared a master plan in 1974, which shaped the Avenue as we see it today. In 1996, after the plan was substantially implemented, Congress dissolved the PADC and divided its responsibilities among the General Services Administration, the National Park Service, NCPC, and the District of Columbia government. Each agency worked independently, often without dedicated funding, leaving no single organization in charge of the Avenue. Over time, this contributed to deferred maintenance, declining real estate values, and its perception as a lackluster destination. It also left in place the 1974 plan, which is now over 50 years old. The delegation of responsibilities also created a highly complex jurisdictional condition on the Avenue, leading to inefficient management and inconsistent regulations for use of space. While each set of rules works well within its own jurisdictional area, they become ineffective when the Avenue is used as a single unified space. For example, National Park Service rules designed for places like the Grand Canyon also apply to Pennsylvania Avenue's sidewalks, parks, and plazas, while district roadway standards treat the Avenue like any other city street. During events, this results in visible separations, as you can see in the photo to the right, with fences dividing areas with different regulations, crowding activities into the roadway, and leaving sidewalks empty or for support functions. The Avenue is also overdue for a redesign. Its modernist design is reflective of its era, and aging materials and visible wear are evident. Ad hoc security measures clutter the sidewalks, and events rely on large and unattractive temporary infrastructure. The Avenue is also vulnerable to extreme heat and flooding, making it at times an uncomfortable and unattractive place to be. To address some of these issues, agencies with post-Pennsylvania Avenue Development Corporation responsibilities formed an executive committee and launched the Pennsylvania Avenue Initiative to plan for the Avenue's future and update the 1974 plan. The initiative established strategic goals leading to a new vision. The Avenue is a venue, elevated as America's stage for events of national and regional significance, and a great street for people, a memorable destination that balances an efficient roadway with beautiful and engaging public spaces for people to enjoy every day, all day, and into the evening. The initiative also directed and completed studies which found that the roadway is larger than needed, the Avenue works best as an event venue, and that high-quality public spaces are a key driver of economic revitalization. Guided by the vision, these findings informed 3 early design concepts that NCPC released in 2022, starting a public conversation about what the Avenue could be. That conversation gave us great feedback, which is now informing our current phase of work in guiding design ideas into the alternatives that we will share this spring. NCPC, General Services Administration, National Park Service, the district government, Downtown DC Bid, and Events DC are working together to create a new Pennsylvania Avenue plan that will replace the outdated 1974 plan. Our 87-acre planning area includes the avenue's 1.2-mile stretch between the White House and the Capitol and 40 acres of adjacent public space. The team is also looking beyond the formal boundary to improve connections to its terminus at the Capitol and between the Avenue, the National Mall, and the heart of downtown. When complete, the new Pennsylvania Avenue plan will be a usable and comprehensive document that will guide decision-making and development for decades to come. Two consultant teams are leading the development of the new plan. David Rubin Lang Collective is leading the Public Space Master Plan, which is a physical public space plan that will address the alignment and configuration of the street and public spaces and the infrastructure needs to realize the vision of the avenue as a venue. David presented to the Commission last June, and we will be back in April, hopefully, for concept review. HRNA Advisors is leading the implementation program, which is a management framework that addresses programming, administration, operations, and maintenance, all critical to the avenue's use, upkeep, enjoyment, and long-term success. Their work is integrated into the Public Space Master Plan. The consultant teams are working closely together and with our project partners at both the senior executive and technical staff levels, as well as with NCPC's internal planning and design staff. This is a quick preview of some of the foundations for the new design. The design team shared this with the Commission and the public last June, and it's a good representation of how the work to date, including feedback from the early vision and concepts, has provided a basis for the ideas that we're testing now. Looking at our timeline, we will begin commission and regulatory reviews this spring. Once we begin, we have a year to complete design development and the required documentation. This year includes going to NCPC and the Commission of Fine Arts for review, comment, and ultimately acceptance of the new plan. After the plan is accepted, some elements will require legislative action before implementation, after which another entity will lead final design and construction. Closer look at our timeline. I mentioned April. We anticipate coming back to NCPC for concept review then, which would put us around October for preliminary review and final review in early 2027, with Commission of Fine Arts reviews on a similar schedule. There will be opportunities for the public to share feedback along the way. All NCPC and CFA meetings are public, and we will host additional public meetings as part of the regulatory process following our concept and preliminary reviews. This is a very exciting moment, the beginning of a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in infrastructure improvements and set the stage for implementation. As we've seen, the status quo is not working. The avenue is not functioning the way it should be to fulfill its national role. And with this plan, we have a design opportunity to address infrastructure and create a world-class venue, and a management opportunity to facilitate the changes needed to successfully steward the avenue for decades to come. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, and the NCPC team is here to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Thank you for that, Karen. I think you really summed it up best. The status quo just isn't working with respect to Pennsylvania Avenue. Do any commissioners have any questions?
Yeah, I'm interested in just knowing what are some of the, once you go a little more granular, what are some of the key problems you're trying to solve in the new plan?
I can start with this one, and I'll invite my colleagues up to fill in the gaps. But essentially, there are clear design issues right now. The avenue is aging. There are material things that are need upgrading. Traffic studies have shown that the roadway has excessive capacity, and that some of that space can be reallocated to make it more efficient. We have other situations where there's a maze of infrastructure below ground that's not currently providing adequate service above ground, as we can see with events needing things like generators and bringing in other types of ways to access utilities that can be very cumbersome. sort of on the physical side. And then in terms of management, what I think is the basis of the challenge is the avenue has different parts of the street are have different sets of regulations. So, for example, the IndyCar race that is coming to DC has taken an executive order to get around some of the hurdles with restrictions on signage, branding, sponsorships. So even smaller scale events have that issue here. So every spring, the Avenue hosts the National Capital Barbecue Battle. It's sponsored by Giant, and because Giant needs their sponsorship, it's located in the middle of the street, so they don't have to, because there are restrictions on branding and signage if they were to use the sidewalk. So one thing that is frustrating for event producers, and I think even the regulatory agencies, is that there is no consistent set of rules that applies to the whole space. So if you wanted to come and use the avenue, all of the avenue, you would have to kind of portion your activities in places to meet those regulations. It's complicated.
You've got an 107-foot wide street, 4 traffic lanes each way, plus bike lanes. This is the landmark street in our nation's capital, and it's essentially unusable for many events, or we have a lot of trouble using it for many of the events we would want to use it for. You walk along Pennsylvania Avenue, and as you can see there, you've got these flower pot bollards, which are not an ideal security measure and also look like heck. The trees are all dying. What I've been told is that underground you have a morass of utility projects dating back to the Civil War. It's just a mess, and I think it could be a lot better, but I'm sorry to jump in the place of staff here.
That's a good summary. It is a good summary. It's a combination of physical needs and this management structure that we're hoping to simplify to really make the avenue something that's very usable for more people.
It's a regulatory flub-a-dub. It's like a bunch of different animals combined together, and what you end up with just doesn't make much sense. Paul.
Quick question. I think one of the most noticeable issues, and I think this is a very important project, and I appreciate this presentation. This is great. In terms of, maybe you could talk a little bit more about what design principles or what goals do you have to improve walkability in this area? I know walking down this avenue, a lot of these, structures are aging. There are a lot of dislodged bricks, and when you have a snowstorm, it just makes things even more compromised. So I'm wondering if that's a focus for you, improving our walkways, making sure that everything's nice and smooth and flat, and there aren't, dislodged stones and stuff. What exactly is your focus on that?
Sure. So this is a bit of a teaser for April. When we come into concept review, we'll be sharing those design intentions and ideas. But the foundations that we've shared previously with the commission, this is a shorter summarized version, but it essentially, there's a lot of different uses that we need to accommodate within the roadway, within the sidewalks, and the design team is taking a really holistic look at that to make sure we accommodate as many uses as possible, make it as efficient as possible, and also make it as beautiful as possible. So if the 1974 plan really gave us what we see today, that's been out there for a very long time, and so we're past due for a refresh. We are looking at prioritizing the framed view to the Capitol, looking at the configuration of the roadway so that it does accommodate pedestrians, vehicles, bicycle loading, ride share, all the things you need on a city street, but also still retaining that sense of grandeur, that ceremonial function. We've been working closely with maybe the Avenue's most unique design requirement outside the IndyCar is the inaugural parade. So we've been working a lot with the Military District of Washington to make sure that anything we are proposing for the sidewalks and the roadway supports their needs. See what the event use, we have everything from the barbecue battle to an IndyCar race to the cherry blossom festivities. So there's a range of different sizes of events that we are considering and how best to look at moments where we can upgrade infrastructure to help service those areas. The north-south connections, we want the avenue, you mentioned walkability, making it an attractive place to go from the mall and encourage folks to go into downtown and vice versa. We get a lot of visitors to the mall. I've heard like 35, 40 million. And so can the avenue serve as more of a draw and less of a barrier? And then in terms of retail, we know that the avenue probably is not the retail destination in the city, but could it complement downtown? We'd like to see that. So some of the foundations that are going into our work, and we're so excited to share more in April.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll open things to the commission for discussion. And we'll start with Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you. And thank you for the presentation. The National Park Service has been a partner with this project for a really long time. Really long time. And I cannot disagree that it's a mess.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go on it before.
And that
I had a briefing on this morning, so it's all very fresh to mind.
Understood.
And I apologize. I didn't mean to tear your head off, Stuart.
It does need some tender loving care, but I think I would be remiss in not pointing out that it's also a National Historic Site and the importance of that as America's Front Street, not just to serve a venue for events, but a place for people to protest, to come together, to celebrate. And it needs to serve those needs in a manner that is consistent with what should be Americans Front Street, right? And is it doing it now? No. So I think the work that we're all doing together is really important, and looking to the future and seeing how we can elevate the avenue itself while maintaining those historic features that make it part of the National Register. So we enjoy the process and look forward to continuing working on it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Argo. Do we still have Commissioner Argo with us? Commissioner Argo?
Maybe come back.
Okay.
to her.
Vice Chairman.
Wait, here I am.
Oh.
Here I am.
Got you now.
Sorry. And sorry to make such a fuss since I don't have a lot to say, but except to be, it's very exciting for those of us who have made, who did not grow up here, but have made this city, someone like me made this city, came for an internship and stayed over 40 years ago. It's exciting to see the work that's being contemplated for, our, what we call one of our most historic venues. I call it a venue. Not much else to say except, carry on. I love this.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman Levenbach.
But if we could put the planners outside the EPA building in this, I would be thrilled, because those are kind of my bane of existence. But what I would say, when I asked the questions about what the priorities were, not because I questioned the premise of the exercise, it's more from a management perspective. If you work in the federal government for as long as at least I have now, you work on a lot of plans, and those plans they're not necessarily useful in terms of management and execution and implementation. I mean, sometimes they are, but there are a lot of plans that people work on that aren't. And so I would really think about how you develop a plan that is implementable, because right now you have a lot of different agencies and organizations that have a piece of this. And when a lot of different organizations are responsible, then nobody's responsible, right? And you're in the plan, especially a plan like this, which might not necessarily have a champion, maybe other than the NCPC. When you have the different jurisdictions and the budgets that go with it, and people are going to spend money on only the things that necessarily are within their ambit. So I would just really think about not just the outcome and having a great vision for what the street should be, but also how do you get there? How do you get there within current services or current resources, and give people something that then they can take up their organizations and actually try to make progress on.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Levenbach. Commissioner Blair's not with us. Commissioner Ingracia.
I don't have much more to add. Thank you again for the presentation. I know GSA has been an active participant in the initiative, and we look forward to continuing the work with NCPC and other stakeholders in this. GSA has a lot of property. It's the primary property owner on the south side of the avenue in the Federal Triangle. This avenue is the front door to many federal agency headquarters, some of the most famous. I think these proposed improvements will enhance the impression of these very important buildings and create a welcoming environment for tenants, for visitors, for people visiting our city, for those participating in parades. And we look forward to continuing this collaborative enterprise and making this city and the street area much safer, more beautiful, and much better to use than it has been over the last couple of decades, falling into a little bit of disrepair. So appreciate the presentation. We look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you, Commissioner Ingracia. Commissioner Dixon.
First of all, I'm pleased to be involved in this because I don't know whether I want to bring it up, but I was involved with the Pennsylvania Avenue Development Corporation. I was on that structure, and we were trying to, at that time, bring an avenue which was in bad need of organization, more or less as a ceremonial strip. But I'm pleased to be with you all now, looking at making this more of a people's place, a place that will have more vibrance, more strengthening of the whole community, not just for the capital. So I'm very pleased to be a part of it, and I'm looking forward to what's being done. And it's a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cash.
Thanks so much. I just want to commend the work that's gone on with this initiative. The thing that I've always come back to, even though this commission has now evolved to a lot more of kind of the legislative side of things versus the planning side of things, I think that one of the things that makes the avenue so difficult is just what staff was talking about. The fact that you have this random mishmash of GSA running the buildings, and you have the Park Service running the sidewalks. You have DDOT and DC running the center of it. And all these plans are great, but if you can't get the governance right, you're never going to get the avenue right. So if we want to talk about kind of the ugly side of buildings, a lot of these federal agencies, if you're at 10,000 feet, the buildings look great, but you get down there, there's no like restaurants or anything like that you can do. If you've gone over to the EPA building to try and go into the post office, it gets worse, not better every time you go in there. So until we can really address kind of the holistic planning aspects of making sure there's things to do, making sure that you can go from the street to the sidewalk during an event, making sure that if you're going to have an event like Pride or inauguration or anything like that, that you don't have a fence between getting into those great new places we want to bring on the avenue. Instead, you have to go through these little gates and security. Until you get the governance right and everyone's on the same page, it's never going to get there. So I appreciate that there's work being done with the Military District of Washington, because that's one of the big security theater things that we have to worry about with any of these events on the avenue. But I think if you also look at a lot of the other events that have happened that don't have as much security necessarily, you can see there's ways to mitigate a lot of what we think of as traditional security with putting all the fences up. So I think that the governance is often underrated. I'm glad that that's one of the central planning aspects going on here, because with the kind of bureaucracy that you get on the avenue with different agencies, it's never going to get there until you can get everyone on the same page. So I appreciate the work that's going into that, especially on the governance side.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson.
I appreciate that you all are looking at this. There's a lot of issues that need to be dealt with. I would just encourage that if we can, let's try and find a way to make the traffic lanes straight rather than the zigzag that they are down the street now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner McGowan.
I don't have any additional comments right now. Thank you to staff for the informative presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cozart.
Yes, appreciate staff for the presentation, but more so the intentionality of your approach to this, having, a work stream that's around design, having a work stream around governance, and moving those forward together in parallel so that one can inform the other, I think is a really smart strategy. And just want to appreciate your patience with all of us as we, kind of move through this process.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Schaefer.
Nothing else to add. My fellow commissioners have basically summed it up. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, first of all, thank you again, Karen, for the presentation. I'm a big believer in this. I think, as my comments before may have sort of prefaced, I think this is the most important street in our nation's capital, and I think it's just fallen into a pretty terrible state. I think you have, if you walk up and down Pennsylvania Avenue, you will see vacancies, you will see essentially unusable space. I think it's a real problem, and I think not just is it a real problem, it's a fixable problem. There are governance issues, there are infrastructure issues, but I think long term, when we think about the most important projects we're doing around the Capitol, this certainly ranks up there. And I would just commend our staff, GSA, National Park Service, and really everybody else involved here for their willingness to take on what's really a pretty complicated problem, and hopefully build towards a place where we can chart a better future for Pennsylvania Avenue and for that part of the district. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions before we move on to agenda item 7B? Hearing and seeing none, thank you. And thank you, Karen. And we will now move on to agenda item 7B, which is an informational presentation on the Great Falls Area Maryland Development Concept Plan. And we have Laura back with us once again.
Yes, good afternoon again, Commissioners. Today, the National Park Service will provide an information presentation on the development concept plan for the Great Falls area of the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park in Montgomery County, Maryland. The Great Falls, Maryland planning area is located northeast of the Potomac River. Parklands along the southern shore of the Potomac River, located in Great Falls, Virginia, are administered by George Washington Memorial Parkway and are not included in this effort. As background, the NPS process for park development includes several stages. Management plans, such as the Civil War Defenses of Washington Management Plan, are the earliest stage in the park planning process and typically cover a broad area, providing high-level guidance. Later stages in park development include development concept plans, which develop major park elements, such as this plan and the reimagined Anacostia Park Development Concept Plan. Then the project design of specific elements is conducted, and finally, construction and implementation. Once specific projects included in the Great Falls Development Concept Plan are identified for implementation, they will be submitted to NCPC for further review. And with that, I will turn it over to Andrew Landsman, NPS Chief of Resources Management for the C&O Canal National Historical Park.
Hello. Thank you for having us here to share the results of recent National Park Service planning efforts for the Great Falls area in Potomac, Maryland, within Montgomery County. The Chesapeake and Ohio Canal National Historical Park preserves a 184.5-mile historic canal corridor along the Potomac River, stretching from Georgetown in Washington, D.C. to Cumberland, Maryland. Once an important 19th century transportation route for coal, lumber, and agricultural goods, the canal now offers visitors opportunities to enjoy recreational and educational experiences that connect them to the region's history and landscape. The project area centers around the Maryland side of Great Falls and is the most popular area of the park, which itself is one of the most visited national parks in the country, with over 5 million annual visitors. We undertook this plan so we could ensure that the park was continuing to meet visitor needs into the future, provide high-quality recreational and educational experiences, and preserve our amazing natural and cultural resources. This plan was developed in coordination with partners, stakeholders, and the public, and offers a shared path forward for the Great Falls area. I'll turn it over to Christine Bruins with our regional planning team to share more information about the plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Laura. So thanks. Today, our plan is public, and we have been working on it for a couple of years now, and we're excited to share what we're up to. So as Andrew mentioned, this is the most visited area of the park. The visitation to the area has steadily increased over the last 15 years. The Billy Goat A Trail, which is located in this area, can see up to 2,000 visitors a day during the peak season. And the falls viewing area is also a very popular regional draw and draws a high visitation all year round. We've also seen in this part of the park changing visitation, more multi-day hiker biker through traffic, more large groups, organized large groups. And so the pattern of visitation is changing, and we wanted to take on a plan to accommodate everyone and accommodate for the future. So the popularity of this area can also create some challenges. There's a lot of crowding on popular trails, and that crowding pushes over into sensitive natural resource areas. There's parking challenges, and there have been increased visitor safety incidents, particularly along the Billy Goat A Trail and in the river. As mentioned before, this planning area is centered around the Great Falls Tavern parking lot. It goes up to the north to Swains Lock, where we have a campground and another overnight lock house rental. And it extends to the south to the Anglers parking lot, where many locals use to access the site and to access the Billy Goat Trail. The plan purpose had 4 main goals, and those were to look at strategies to promote resource stewardship, to continue to provide safe, high-quality national park experiences, to have appropriate ranges of facilities and services to meet the visitors, and to proactively engage with the partners, stakeholders, and the public. This plan is very high level. It's programmatic. The recommendations are ranging from small scale and very specific, such as water filling stations at targeted areas, to larger actions such as adaptive reuse of the historic structures located throughout the site. All of the recommendations in the plan are in service to the Park Service's goals of promoting safe and enjoyable opportunities for recreation and stewardship of resources. This plan is not an environmental assessment. It does not have any sort of design element, and there's no preferred alternative. We will come back with discrete actions following. The plan is centered around the main issues and opportunities we have at the site, which includes managing the high and growing volume of visitation. And what that means for us as recreation managers is evaluating the use and capacity of our facilities and infrastructures and how that supports visitation. We're looking at social trails throughout the areas. We're looking at put-in and takeouts to the rivers and the canal and the trails between them. We're looking at potential for new concessions, whether it be food or recreational outfitters. And we're looking at the management of overnight campsites and lodging. We're also charged with preserving the 19th century canal infrastructure and protecting natural ecosystems of the area. The plan also looks to reduce injuries and fatalities, of which there are a large number, and to ensure more timely access for emergency response and search and rescue teams to areas. The plan also looks to improve parking, traffic, and related safety issues. We want to increase accessibility of the core experiences in the site. And then we are looking to find suitable uses for all of the historic structures on site, many of which are vacant or underused. So we had 2 comment periods. The first was broader level. We wanted to touch base with our visitors and find out, how they're using, what's working for them, what's not working for them, what we need to consider as we move forward. And in the second planning period, we asked more targeted feedback about what we're proposing along the Billy Goat A Trail, which is where a lot of the recommendations in the plan go. And then also specifically where we're going to make changes to access to the Potomac River. There are no formal river take-in or put outs. And so we asked our public where they use and where they would like to see those infrastructure. So we received a lot of feedback from long-term visitors, from people who volunteer with our search and rescue crew, from anglers and paddlers, just a diverse group of people, and their feedback was incorporated into our planning effort. The recommendations are, again, programmatic, but we're looking at physical and operational interventions to improve safety and crowding along the Billy Goat A Trail. We're looking to improve safety by formalizing some of these access points, and we're looking to formalize some social trails and close others for resource management and visitor safety reasons. There's also a number of recommendations that are specific to making the visitor experience better. One of the primary concerns is making sure there's consistent access to water, food, and supplies. We're looking at improvements for parking and access from Montgomery County into the park site. And then again, finding appropriate uses for some of the structures on site that could also accommodate the recreation that visitors are seeking. We'll be back when we have more detailed designs for implementation. The C&O Canal is going to continue to work with Montgomery County Fire on first respond, some of the safety issues on site and coordinating first response. They're also working with Montgomery County Traffic Department on the access road and some connections between MacArthur Boulevard and the park. And we'll continue to seek funding for some of the larger scale design and construction projects. So thank you for your time, and hand it back to you, Laura.
We'll turn it over to the commission for questions.
Thanks a lot, Laura. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing none.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Stuart.
I have a lot. I go here a fair amount, and so I see a lot of opportunities. All the things that you laid out, I can see areas to try to improve the visitor experience. I'm interested in, you talked a little bit about safety, and I'm interested in what the numbers look like, because I can think of a lot of different ways in which, between people accessing the river improperly and safety around that, the Billy Goat Trail, collisions, just because I have a lot of bikers and people that are walking. I think you might be, like, I'm curious what those numbers look like and how that might guide your overall plan, because I think a number of the things that you're trying to address, you might find evidence in the safety statistics that will guide you in trying to address a number of those different issues.
The safety is concerning, and so in terms of search and rescue, there's over 150 a year. There's 50 to 75 medical calls a year, and there's been over 50 fatalities since 2000. So those are caused by a number of issues. They could be slip and falls. They could be medical conditions triggered by overexertion or heat, or swimming in the river that looks calm on the surface but has a great amount of undertow due to the falls. So there are a number of safety issues on site, and they were definitely a principal factor when we were looking at the recommendations for the area.
So you have an average of 2 fatalities a year on this site?
I don't know yearly, but
Okay.
there have been over 50 since the year 2000.
Wow.
I think that part of it is people underestimate
Sure.
the difficulty of the trail and the congestion on the trail. So people start off with not enough water or no water because they think they're going to just take a leisurely walk.
Sure.
And part of the way through, they find themselves in a bad situation without anything. And then we end up having to do a search and rescue. And then the water issues are the same. You know, they think they can just put in a boat and they're good. And then the rapids are right there, the swiftness of the water. I think it's just people who are inexperienced and unprepared for sort of the situation is a lot. And then the congestion, it's not good. Too many people too close on the trail not good for the resource and not good for visitor experience or for the safety of others.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? Proceeding to comments, Vice Chairman Levenbach.
No more comments other than what I said, and I look forward to seeing how this project develops.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Commissioner Ingracia.
Appreciate the National Park Service and initiating the planning process, and we look forward to seeing more as the project develops.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dixon, are you still with us? I don't hear Commissioner Dixon.
Is Skunk Valley in the area we're looking at?
Oh.
Uh-oh.
What?
Can
Can
you
you
hear me?
repeat that, Commissioner Dixon?
Skunk Valley. Is it part of the area we're speaking of? I think it's right off the bridge there.
I don't believe so, Andrew.
Was it Hunt Valley? Is that was the question?
Skunk, as in the animal that smells. Skunk Valley.
That's not something I'm familiar with. No.
When I was a Cub Scout or a scout, we camped in that area. I know it's up to the bridge in the woods. In fact, I caught my first trout and found out you could cook a trout right from the stream, right in that area. So I just wondered whether it was the same. It was a spectacular area then, and we camped there. So maybe I'm in the wrong area. Maybe somebody can research that for the next time to see if Skunk Valley is a part of the area that you're speaking of.
Thank you, Commissioner Dixon. If you don't have any other questions, Commissioner Cash.
No questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Henderson is no longer with us. Commissioner McGowan.
I don't have any additional comments, but thank you to staff for the presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cozart.
Appreciate the presentation and your work on this project.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schaefer.
Nothing further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stidham.
Thank you for allowing us to bring this information presentation, and we will surely be back with other projects. I think just to highlight the importance of this type of planning effort as we begin to look at visitation and park management in a way that we're serving our visitors, but we're also protecting the resource. And it's really key for the mission of the National Park Service and the work we do. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Commissioner Argo.
I don't have any additional questions. I'm very excited. I live about a block off of the trails, the river, all of that in the upper northwest corner of Washington. And it's a beautiful place, and anything we can do to preserve the beauty and upgrade the experience for everybody is got my vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Speaking for myself, I mean, I was planning on spending a lot of time here until I realized that people are apparently dying here quite often. So let's figure out how to make Great Falls and the whole area safe and beautiful and a wonderful resource as it has been historically. Thank you to staff and to NPS for this presentation. I think I speak for all of us when I say I look forward to hearing more about the exciting plans you have for this area in the coming months. With that, is there anything further? Are there any other questions or comments on this project?
Just Chairman, I would encourage you to visit that. It is a safe place.
The Billy Goat A Trail, I love it.
Opportunities for safe recreation, and I encourage you to get out when you can and visit the site and enjoy the many things it has to offer.
Thank you, Commissioner. Duly noted. Before we adjourn for the day, are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Well, we will see you all next month. I guess that is most likely to be a virtual only meeting, but I look forward to it as I know that you do. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.